Hello, and welcome to the Merri-Cast, the show that puts you on the fast track to business confidence. The people I interview here have either given me my business confidence directly or inspired me in other ways. My guest today is Neeraj Shah. This guy's incredible. He has found great success in building a business around the use of LinkedIn and has inspired others, including me, to do the same. But he's much, much more than that. Neeraj has got this amazing backstory, one in which he faced a big dilemma early on in his career. He also struggled at first until he discovered something very special that became core to his success. But I should let Neeraj tell his story his way.
I come from a family that are all entrepreneurs. I'm a third generation entrepreneur. So I think entrepreneurship has been in my blood or DNA, whichever you'd like to say. And I'm also grateful to have lived in a number of countries. So I was born in Kenya and grew up in the UK and moved to start a business in India, where I currently am based. And that was about 18 years ago. I moved here with a one-way ticket. And I knew one person and I was starting a business network. So that was a very interesting experience. And I was literally thrown into the deep end. My inverted commas day job right now is I typically spend my time either mentoring, coaching entrepreneurs. I invest in startups and I focus primarily on LinkedIn to help businesses get more business using LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I know you as that sort of the master of LinkedIn, and that's how I came to sort of know you. But let's take a step back to one or two of those things. You were talking about setting up this network. I mean, setting up networks can be quite a thankless task or feel like it's quite difficult. I mean, how were your early experiences of that? Because I'm from what I understand that it wasn't plain sailing at the start. Can you just sort of take us through that and how you overcame the challenges you faced?
Any of these things, when you start out new, like any startup, you start with a lot of gusto and energy. But unless you get clear on why you're doing something, you're not able to sustain. It really came a point where I think maybe 2 years in, and I only had two networking groups and maybe about, 40 members. And I remember the founder of that network saying, if I don't see some serious growth next year, I'm going to terminate your franchise. So, kind of that was the wake-up call that I kind of got. That by itself would have been enough to get me really going. So really, I started peeling back the onion and going into, why am I doing this? And I set a particular number that I wanted to get this network to. But more important was the motivation as to why I was doing it. And what had happened was I had seen one of the members of the network get to 10 million rupees, and everyone was super excited. In 1 year, he generated 10 million rupees. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. If we can help replicate this for every member, then we'll certainly be, doing something quite measurable and tangible for any small business. And not only that, if these small business owners then could employ 10 more people, we're creating 10 more jobs. But not only that, in India particularly, one person may be working and maybe supporting many family members. So you're really supporting that many families. So then, it became very clear that, okay, well, what were we here to do? And, we were here to help create 100,000, kind of multimillionaires who would then create, 1 million new jobs, across the Indian community, which would support 1 million families in India. And, suddenly everything became very clear. And I think having that level of why, and certainty, and clarity, right, created massive attraction.
So there you were then, you're being told that, your license could be terminated. And that's a sort of the old-fashioned fight or flight moment, really. I mean, so you chose to fight, but was there a part of you thinking, well, I should look for something else to do? I mean, was it a key moment for you? Yeah, go on.
There was no going back, because I'd left the family businesses. I was expected to take them over as I was the eldest in the family, and I was being groomed for that. But after having spent 9 years in them, I really wasn't happy, and I think I kind of finally said, okay, I'm at that age where if I don't make this move now, I will regret it forever and I'll be stuck. So when I made that move, the family was less than impressed, and then decided to cut me off and said, okay, if you're leaving us, then you're on your own. So I'd already kind of made those decisions, and there was no going back. There was no going back with tail between my legs, or saying that there's something else. I had no choice but to make whatever I was doing work.
Yeah.
But it didn't work for me until I connected to my inner compass. And then everything really fell into place.
Okay, so tell us, so this inner compass, I mean, it's a very important thing, and it's a constant recurring theme amongst many of the entrepreneurs that I talk to. I mean, when I think of you, I think of somebody who's very confident, a master of their field, and so on. I'm sure the truth is more complicated, you're sort of in that, but is confidence part of that compass, or is that something separate?
I am an introvert, and here I was having to in charge of starting this network. So I only knew one person in the country, so I had to get very good at walking in a room and identifying centers of influence and becoming influential or friendly with them. So I was kind of thrown in the deep end because I was so clear about the why I was doing this. It gave me that courage, and I think with that courage, we're not able to do these things. Then I think once courage is there, the attitude is there. And then it's just, okay, any of these things I think are learnable. And, if you spend some time, seeing who are successful networkers out there, and you start modeling them, then, you'll see that a lot of these things are not, art or a science, but, all of these things can be learned and, can be codified. So that's exactly how I went about it. And I built my confidence in building the business. And the larger the business grew, then the more confident I became. But, initially you had to fake it until you made it. But, you have to have that, again, that inner compass was driving me, saying that you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing. You're here to help people. And by me not sharing my gift, my business or opportunity with people, then that would actually somehow be downplaying it.
So let me just look at that a bit more, because I know our listeners will be really interested in this compass, that if you've got your compass right, your purpose, why you're doing the things, I mean, did you suddenly feel that what made you get up each day, what made you do what you do, sort of just became much, much easier, that it just sort of flowed more naturally, or not?
I mean, I had a particular life event that was there in 2001, and I was at the Life Mastery Program with Tony Robbins. This was around the time when 9/11 happened. So I had, some certain moments there because we were in the US at that time, and about 500 people were there from New York. I just felt after that moment that I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how I wanted to help people. I think then, it's just to say that, okay, I have this itch. I have to find a way to scratch it. I have to find a vehicle that I can use to somehow, do it. And I just felt that mine would be something business related, because I'm very passionate about business, having grown up in a family, so they talk business all the time. So that was definitely something that I wanted to do, but I hadn't figured out what I was exactly going to do. And it's only when you kind of keep your eyes and ears open, and then this opportunity comes along and it seems like, oh, and I think it was a friend of mine who kind of had the opportunity, said, I think this would be good for you.
Must have been a very good friend and who sort of
Yes.
knew you well. I think a lot of people would be interested in the fact that you said that you're an introvert. There is a widespread misconception, in my opinion, around what an entrepreneur is, and in this country, there's a sort of a TV image of an entrepreneur, swashbuckling, extroverts. But would you say then that there is many different types of entrepreneurs as there are people, really, that it's not really a character type for entrepreneurs?
No, not at all. And I think, I mean, there are many people out there who are just good at what they do and don't need to end up interacting with too many people, know how to crunch the numbers or put the strategy or the system together, and they're able to do extremely well. And there are others who thrive of the energy of meeting people. That's what keeps them going. My wife is also involved in the business. She actually is the natural networker. I'm more, the systems person from behind. So, whenever I go to these big events, I need a couple of days to kind of, calm down and come back to earth. And
now I know that you're scaling up in terms of what you're doing. I mean, you and I have been on sort of courses in which we would call this going from yellow to green, which to those listeners who don't know is all about that, from going from like a one-man band to having more people and putting the team first. I personally have said on this podcast before about what a difficult challenge that is. I mean, what's been the biggest challenge for you in making that move?
I think you've got to first get clear about what are things that you can offload that typically end up on your to-do list often, and you just have no inclination to actually complete them. No matter how good your intentions are, and you've got to find someone who will just really enjoy doing that. They just love maybe number crunching or putting together this sort of data or whatever the case may be. So I think that might be someone's dream job or dream task. They love doing that. So identifying those and then slowly getting those off. And I think in this day and age now, people are more used to, okay, you will get an assistant, an executive assistant, But initially, I remember when I was looking to do this, there were none of these virtual assistants or anything like that. I mean, you actually had to employ someone, and that was a big deal. So, but I think that was the best thing that I ended up doing, and then identifying one by one. I did an organization chart of where I wanted to be, say, in 10 years' time. And then I, did that scary thing where I put my name in all the boxes. And then I began to say, okay, which is the one where I need to, immediately take my name off and find someone else. So I think this is how I went about doing it.
Has there been
made much more sense to me.
Has there been a particular box on that organogram or whatever you want to call it where you showed a marked reluctance to take your name off there? Maybe because it was something you loved doing and wanted to carry on doing, but you knew in your heart of hearts you had to stop doing it in order to progress. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, well, one of them was the leadership training for this networking organization, and that was kind of a 6-monthly event. And because this business was run by those particular leaders, so it was very important. And I remember getting to a point where I had trained individually all the different people to be able to deliver it, but I was still there, like a mother hen, in the background, and then there came a time when I said, what, I have to actually not be there. Like I have to be somewhere far away. That's the only way I'm going to be able to do it. I decided to take my lunch, my lovely wife out for a lunch date. But I remember, despite this incredible woman being in front of me, my mind, back in the leadership training. But the fact is, the business survived and in fact thrived. And, I needed to maybe just do that more for myself and see that, yes, nothing's going to Like no one's going to die, because I wasn't there.
So for those who have yet to reach that stage, I mean, the sort of nirvana is that as you scale up your time and your team, then life gets easier, or does it just get different?
I think it just gets different. I think you've got to, I'm naturally quite structured with my time and how productive I am. So I'm used to that, and I'm good at kind of drilling down to details and then going up to a sort of 30,000-foot view. I think that's the key thing, that as a leader, as you grow the organization, you've got to get good at doing that. And you've got to identify the next level of leaders. Typically, I would like it to happen internally, but if you're not able to do it internally, to get them externally, create that attraction, be on the lookout for those sorts of people, and get good at presenting an opportunity. Because typically those A players, they're not looking for a job. So you've got to get good at developing those relationships and then presenting the opportunity in the right way at the right time, and then things are more likely to happen.
I want to sort of always in these podcasts give listeners the confidence they need to succeed. Now, you described a sort of success that was initially born of your back being to the wall, if you like, that you just felt like there was no choice. Yeah. But you couldn't go back. You had to succeed. Now, I would say that you are a success. To my eyes, you're a success already. And does that mean that your mindset has to shift as well in that? I mean, in some ways, having no choice but to succeed, gave you a sort of focus. But now if you've achieved a measure of success and so on, has that changed for you? Do you feel that same impetus? There's something that's driving you on to succeed some more?
No, I mean, I think you see at different levels of success, then, if we're looking at Maslow's human needs, a lot of those key human needs are already met. Then it, really becomes a question of what's meaningful to you, number one. And number two, enjoying the process of doing those meaningful. So, and this was a secret, that I didn't come up with, but Marshall Goldsmith, the number one leadership coach in the world, I had an opportunity to meet him one-to-one, and a short 15-minute thing became a couple of hours, which was just incredible. And we discussed a lot of these particular things. So I think you change, and then you have to see what's going to drive you. Because the same things that would have driven me maybe 10 years ago don't drive me anymore. At that time, I didn't have a family. I have a family, a young family. So, I would prefer more, time there. And, right now, I am actually thinking about these things in terms of where do I want to be in the next 5 years, 10 years? Because as you do become more successful, I think more opportunities come your way. And I think, you have to get good at saying no.
For our listeners, what are you up to right now? I mean, are there particular projects or things that you're working on? And also, second question is, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I'm currently looking more at the startup ecosystem and accelerators and things like that. I'm looking at crypto and this whole new Web 3.0 side of things, how that's happening. I've continued to be in the networking business, but not so much offline networking as online networking, because I think LinkedIn has become an incredibly profitable place if you know how to use it. And people can find me at neerajshah.me, that's NEERAJSHAH.me, or can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me.
Well, thank you so much to Neeraj for his time. I love how he found his sense of purpose, how it gave him the courage to succeed, the way he talks about this thing called his inner compass, and how he became a great networker in spite of being an introvert at heart. So thank you to him, and thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate and review us through your usual podcast provider. And if you want to find out more about the Merri-Cast or our business Merriborn Media, you can find us on LinkedIn or email me at trevor.meriden@merribornmedia.co.uk. So don't forget to join us again, and until then, thanks for listening.